Thank you, Ashley, and we'll start this conversation about sleep. If we can see the first slide, this is just a guide for what we're going to talk about. So the first thing we need to think about is what is the natural cycle of sleep and wake times, and that is a very important concept. We need to sleep. Sleep is a physical need of the brain and the body. It's not an option. It's an absolute need, and it's regulated by different genes. And that is the reason why different people have different requirements of sleep. Some people need 6 hours, and that is extremely uncommon. Perhaps less than 1% of the population as an adult has such a small requirement of sleep, but individuals like that exist. But the vast majority of us need about 8 hours of sleep. The official number is 8.17 hours of sleep to keep normal brain function. So that's the minimal requirement for most people. It's a very narrow curve, so most people end up in the around that number of hours. Some people need longer hours of sleep. There are some patients that need 9 hours, 9.5, 10 hours. And how do you know how much you need of sleep? It's not a trivial thing. Most people need to go on vacation, and when you ask working adults what do they do when they go on vacation? They tell you they sleep. People even go to beautiful resorts and they sleep. They're catching up on their sleep. And it's after about a week of don't having to work that people realize about how much they need to sleep. And it's somewhere in between 7 and 8 hours. So naturally, they end up on that number. And that is a number that is important to remember because it's like your average blood pressure, your best weight when you feel your best. There's such a thing as the minimal amount of sleep that we need. So because of genetics, it varies from person to person. The time to go to sleep also varies from person to person. Most adults fall asleep in between 9 and 11 p.m. I tell my patients when we see these problems of when to go to sleep, that if you miss the first train comes in between 9 and 11, the second one comes in between 2 and 4. So we don't want to miss that time to go to sleep because then we are at risk, especially as we get older, that we may end up being up until 1, 2 in the morning, and then we fall asleep again. Many patients have told me over the years that, oh, it's okay, as long as I sleep my hours, it doesn't matter when I sleep. No, it matters, absolutely. Because of genetics, again, there are different gene variants. We are not the same, all of us, so we are not exactly the same. And because of that, some of us feel, for example, that it's better to exercise at 10 in the morning. Other people do better at 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. It varies from person to person. So one of the goals of life as we go from childhood to adulthood is to find out what is my best time to go to bed? What is my best time to wake up? The time to wake up is an interesting point also. The last 2 hours of sleep are critical to feel better during the day, to have sufficient energy. So if you go to bed at 9 p.m., but your brain likes to wake up at 7 a.m., there may be a problem there. So it's not unusual that we tell people, well, go to bed later, so you wake up at the time that you need. So there's a time when we feel better when we fall asleep. There's a time when we feel better when we wake up. And that varies from person to person. So a couple, it's possible that the husband goes to bed at 10 p.m., but the wife feels better when she goes to bed at 11:30 p.m. And we need to respect that each one is unique, and we have to accept that for their own well-being. We'll see each other the next day, but each person is unique. So respecting the time to go to bed and to wake up is very important. There are multiple reasons for this. Through the night, the brain through the pituitary gland controls hormones, the release of growth hormone, the release of thyroid hormone. So it's carefully orchestrated. It's like a symphony. When we start the symphony of sleep, when we wake up, matters. The production of cortisol on the second half of the night. Cortisol is a hormone that is directly related to how much energy we can use. If you are up at 3 in the morning, it will disrupt completely the release of cortisol, and that will affect how you feel the next day. How do you fight infections? How do you walk or exercise? So how we feel during the day depends on what happened the night before. The other concept that we need to have is that things accumulate in the body. So if I have 2 weeks of bad sleep, it's going to take at least 1 to 2 more weeks to recover, assuming that everything goes perfect after that. An example of that is when we go to the hospital. Let's say we have pneumonia and they're waking up throughout the night. People come out of the hospital exhausted. They feel terrible, not only because of the disease they have, but because they couldn't sleep. Hospitals are paying more and more attention and making sure that the patients sleep so that they can recover. Even for strokes, it's important to sleep the amount that you need for your brain to heal from the stroke. When you have a heart attack, it is not unusual that when you have a disease that you become sleepy during the day. Sleepiness during the day, that disruption of the natural sleep and wake cycle. For years, people thought, oh, you are old, or we know now that it reflects some disease. So when I see a patient of mine, especially more than 65 years of age, that is sleepy during the day, I think, okay, what's behind this? Is the heart failure getting worse? Is the diabetes not well controlled? The sleep apnea not well controlled? The other thing that a concept that we need to think about is that the effect of age. The amount of sleep that we need varies by age. We all know that a newborn child, they sleep most of the time. They wake up every 2 hours, they nurse, and they go back to sleep again. And they go through the days and the night. Mothers get synchronized with the baby throughout the night to nurse the baby. That is something that fathers have a great difficulty doing. So there are biological differences between mothers and fathers. Fathers are not very good at nursing the baby through the night. Mothers are much better equipped to adapt to that, and that's across species in mammals that mothers do that. As we get older, the amount of sleep decreases. So a newborn child can easily sleep 13, 14, 16 hours. Then we have, let's say, a 2-year-old that may sleep 12 hours. So it's not unusual for a 12-year-old child to go to bed at 6 p.m. and wake up at 6 a.m. Completely normal. It is essential that every person sleeps what is required for that moment in their life. Teenagers go to bed later. So they would love to go to bed at midnight, but then the brain still needs to sleep 9, 10 hours. So it's a problem with school because you have to wake up early. So it's a battle there in between the parents and the teenagers, how early they will go to bed, will they fall asleep or not? So those are the trying years for the child and the family. And then things stabilize when you are 18 years old, 19 years old, 20 years old. And then you get closer to your 8 to 9 hours, and most people sleep 7 hours depending on the person. And it's important to, like I said, maintain the sleep and wake cycles because that regulates how much energy you're going to have. The problem is that modern life has erupted and it has disrupted our lives. We're constantly bombarded by phones and ads and warnings and all kinds of bells and whistles that come in through our phones that disrupt sleep. I read that most Americans, and it was more than 50%, people wake up in the middle of the night, their phone is next to them. There's some flash coming from a light or a warning or news. The news are disrupting our sleep. And most people do end up waking up in the middle of the night to look at their cell phone, see what time is it. So it has replaced the clock that people used to have. We all used to tell the patient, don't look at the clock. You have insomnia, don't look at the clock. Well, now they're looking at the phone, at the smartphone. That is disrupting sleep. Light is a big disruptor of sleep. We absolutely need the darkness to fall asleep, and we need light to be awake during the day. Uh, we have extended periods of exposure to light now. When people are exposed to darkness on time, it has to be on time, 7, 8 o'clock earlier in the winter, people do fall asleep much better. So uh, dimming the light in the evening is something that many people do. If the lights are bright, especially at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., it can shift forward your sleep, and it may take you another 3 hours to fall asleep. You are tired, but you're awake there because of strong light. We use that as a trick in the elderly when they start going to bed earlier and earlier and earlier. We expose them to light at 6 p.m. and we push their sleep later. But modern life has really affected how we sleep as humans. Another interesting finding about this is that in ancient times, people used to to wake up in the middle of the night, and we still are programmed to wake up in the middle of the night. We will sleep 4 hours, wake up for an hour. Ancient writers in Rome and in Greece, they describe waking up at that time, write letters, poetry, go back to sleep again for another 4 hours. So sleep is bimodal, two humps in humans. But modern life has squeezed everything into one long period. So if you wake up at 3 in the morning, and it takes another 15 minutes to go back to sleep, it's okay. You're behaving like a normal human. There's nothing wrong with that. Why do we need to sleep? This is a very important question. That one of the number one reasons why we need to sleep is that sleep will repair the body. So in the same way that a Formula One car has to stop at the pit to be fixed, we need to stop for 7 hours to be repaired. So the brain is repaired during sleep. All of the organs get repaired. The muscles. If you have a strenuous exercise during the day, you're raking leaves. There's a minor injury to your muscle. That's why they ache the next day. So we need to sleep to repair the muscles, our bones. The whole body gets repaired. All the cells get repaired, especially the brain, to the point that the brain shrinks a little bit as it's being repaired during sleep. So we need to sleep to have a good quality of life the next day. So I tell usually my patients and friends that your day starts when you go to bed. It doesn't start when you wake up. The quality of your day starts when you go to bed. So it's a key thing to know, when do I need to go to bed to feel good the next day. Sufficient sleep is critical for brain function. We know that lack of sleep damages the brain. The risk of dementia goes up if people don't sleep enough. There are multiple diseases that we see in the sleep center where there's disruption of sleep. And we know that the risk of dementia increases, particularly with sleep apnea. The low oxygen, the forced awakenings during the night, gasping for air, do damage the brain, and Alzheimer's disease shows up 17 years earlier. So we need to sleep to remain ourselves and to continue in good health. The effect of exercise is very interesting. This is something that the bikers, the riders to the Tour de France always pay a lot of attention. They have 3 weeks of biking, 4 or 5 hours a day, and all of them make the point to go to bed as soon as they can. After they finish the ride, they eat, they shower, they eat, they rest a little bit. But by 9 o'clock, all of them are sleeping. So they know that they need to repair their body to be ready for the next day. If they don't sleep well one night, they know that they will even lose the race. So many athletes have learned that. There's more and more emphasis in sports, for example, to make sure that the athletes do sleep. In the Olympics, the teams are very strict about making sure that people sleep. If you have surgeons have, for example, learned that for many, many years, they're in bed early when they have important surgeries the next day. They are never sleep deprived. For your exercise capacity, it's also very important to avoid alcohol in the evening. Alcohol can really affect your sleep, but also affect your ability to repair your body, to be ready to do something important, strenuous the next day. So if you, let's say that if you know you're going to have a day where you're going to be doing a lot of raking and working in your garden, avoid alcohol the night before. We can go, let's see to the next slide. So there are conditions that are going to zap your stamina or energy during the day. Sleep apnea is a very common one. 1 out of 4 people have sleep apnea in the country. It's a genetic disease, and we are part of a study of identifying the genes for. There's several identified recently that cause sleep apnea, and it can be treated. It's interesting to see the effect on treated sleep apnea, the various ways to treat sleep apnea, whether it's a mask or whether it's now the devices that we place in the chest to stimulate the hypoglossal nerve, but or an oral appliance. But if you can consolidate sleep, if people can sleep better, you even see a weight loss a month, 2 months later, because they have so much energy and now they can do things. I saw a patient recently, and he was telling me that, yeah, it changed my life to be able to treat my sleep apnea, because now I can pay attention, I can go to class, I have energy, the mood improves. Restless leg syndrome is another condition, also very frequent in Wisconsin. It's a genetic disease. It's very common on people of Northern European descent, and that is why We have so many people in Wisconsin. There are at least 4 different genes associated to a disease with mutation. It's inherited. Families recognize usually that they have rested legs, and it disrupts sleep. The legs bother you so much you have to move them. You cannot fall asleep or remain asleep at night. Even the risk of myocardial infarct increases with rested legs because of the disruption of sleep, and it can be extremely tiring. If you're constantly tossing and turning throughout the night, and you end up falling asleep at 5 in the morning, the next day you have no energy. It's over. And patients do even sleep during the day because they're up all night, and then there's a complete disruption of their daily life. Insomnia is another condition that is extremely common. Insomnia simply means you cannot sleep well. Sleep apnea can be behind insomnia, restless legs can be behind. There are neurological conditions that come with insomnia. So you always want to find out why. Why is that you cannot sleep? We have identified people with new onset of heart failure and changes in breathing patterns that was behind the question, doctor, why is I cannot sleep? Insomnia, difficulty sleeping is the #2 question in internal medicine. #1 is, doctor, I have pain. So insomnia is right there after pain as a common condition. If you cannot sleep, it ruins your next day. It ruins your next week. It is terrible. Not taking medications is not always the first answer. And that is why it's important to talk to your doctors, be referred to a sleep center when needed, so that we can find what is behind. It's a symptom, but it will take away your energy completely, your stamina, your as my patients tell me that I don't have the gumption, I don't have the ambition. That's the word they use, ambition, to do things. I want to do things, but my body says, no, you cannot do that. And you're tired. Why are you going to do all that if you are tired? So identifying the cause is very, very important. What's behind the feeling of tiredness? Why are you tired? I always tell my patients that as physicians, we have the obligation as much as humanly possible to tell them the reasons why they're tired. It's not an invention. Person in all honesty comes and tells us, I am tired, or I am tired. I don't have energy. I want to do things. My mind wants to do things, but I can't. So finding the reason is key in medicine, in modern medicine, so that we can do something. It's not uncommon to have multiple reasons behind that. So keeping a stable life schedule is probably one of the most important things, not just to maximize your energy during the day, but also to have good health. We know that people that have habits, the time to wake up, the time to have lunch, the time to do activities, is one of the secrets for a long life. And to have the energy to continue doing things. Our ability to do things declines with age. One of the main reasons is that we stop moving. We stop walking. In the same way that we need to sleep at night our hours, we need to be active during the day. The average human being should be on and off walking 8 hours a day, doing things. When we don't do things, our body and our brain starts declining. And we, in a way, to look at that, it's like we're aging faster. We sit all day in front of a TV or at work. You can be working, sitting. You essentially age faster, and the data on different populations around the world are proving that those who walk frequently during the day as part of the daily routines. Imagine you're a shepherd and you're walking behind your sheep or your goats and constantly moving. They do much better in their 70s and 80s and 90s than those who are sitting. So I tell my patients, what are we waiting for? To be sitting all day. We need to be active. We need to be moving. Because if we lose function, then it's going to be more difficult to get it back. It's not impossible, but to gently move on and off through the day is the key to have energy. One of the reasons we have to be walking and doing things is that we can continue walking. The moment we stop doing something, we have a very high risk of losing that function, whether it's your brain or the strength of your arms or legs. We lose it. So we have to keep a schedule. Schedules are very important. I told my kids many times that the secret of success in life is a boring life, and they think sometimes that, oh, here comes my old father telling me that, but it's true. Some routine is necessary to keep the functions of our body, whether it's having breakfast on time, lunch on time, seeing people on time. Social activities are important. Being engaged on life on a routine. The routine reminds us of the things that we have to do to keep in good health.